Welcome to another edition of the JWT live show, the Show Me Hoops podcast, as we like to call it, where I'm Coach David Heeb. I'm joined by my brother, Coach Toby Heeb, and we called an emergency podcast where we're gonna try to keep this short if we can do that. It may run a little long, but basically, want to talk about our bracket challenge and just the overwhelming response that I got today from people that texted me or called me. And I want to tell a neat story to kind of open this up. Toby, you remember one of my good friends growing up, Blaine Bruce.
Yep.
Lived about a block from my house, and I spent the night more with Blaine Bruce growing up than I probably did at my own house. Part of the reason for that was Blaine and I both loved basketball and baseball and everything else. The other part was I had a crush on his older sister, Anitra. And so
that's a good reason right there.
It is a good reason. She was a year older than me, and we had an unofficial marriage pact for a while, but it never really materialized. And so
it's nothing until you put it on paper.
That's right. And so Anitra is actually a teacher in the Cape Central School District now, and Blaine also lives in Cape. And I got a phone call today at work, and they said, I'd checked my voicemail. They said somebody called you and left you a voicemail, so I went and checked it. And it was from my friend Blaine Bruce, who I haven't talked to Blaine in about 10 years. And when I say he was one of my closest friends growing up, I mean that. He was really, really close.
Yeah, I remember in the early years coming to the Bell City games and being in the locker room sometimes, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah. Blaine had a backstage pass. He was
Yep.
right there with us. And his grandmother, who still living, she's in her late 90s. She would take care of us kids. Blaine's mom and dad were truck drivers and avid basketball fans. Blaine told me today his dad still goes to about every game he can go to. And so just good people. So Blaine, he called me, and he said, hey, man, I got a problem with your bracket. You picked against my stepdaughter's team. And I said, now, hold on a minute. His girl is one of the better players on Saxony Lutheran. And they've got a great team, and they've got a great chance to win, but he was just giving me a hard time about picking against Saxony Lutheran. So we got to kind of going through the bracket. And, of course, with the daughter playing, he's very familiar with Oran, with Neelyville,
right,
with a lot of the girls' teams, in the bracket right now.
He's probably got a good knowledge of the girls' teams in this part of the state.
And I told him, I said, you need to fill out a bracket. And he said that he was going to wait to come back and pick an NCAA bracket when we do that one, because he wanted to give the rest of us a chance, is what he told me. And so I think he feels pretty confident about his picks. And but we agreed on several of them, and we just, it was really good to talk to an old friend. I hadn't talked to him in forever. And what prompted the whole conversation and the phone call in the first place was the bracket and the bracket challenge on the website. And so I want to talk to you today and see if you've had any kind of similar experience. And I know one of your former players just filled out a bracket.
Yep. He got on there and put one down, and I just think it's neat. Everybody's getting on there and checking it out. It's a neat thing to kind of bring more people together in the JWT community and in a competitive type of way, and and get people talking. Like you said, Blaine's talking about it, and there's other people out there. We're kind of giving the Missouri State basketball tournament a March Madness feel. Where you can get on there and it's not just talking with other coaches or with some buddies or friends about, I think this team can do it and this team or whatever. It's, you're picking all your picks and everybody gets to see them and you get to see how you rank against everyone else. So I think it even brings a little bit more excitement to the high school game and tournament itself.
Yeah, because right now in the entire field, you've got Class 1 boys and girls, that's 8 teams. And then, of course, Class 2 and Class 3, there's 24 total teams in the bracket for that could be the Final Four teams. Of the 24 possible Final Four picks, there are only 2 unanimous decisions. And I should point out there should be 3.
I knew you were going there.
But you picked against Stratford. You are the only one to pick against Stratford. No, I take it back. There's actually 2 people.
See, there's another smart person
that
out there.
have picked against Stratford now. And,
the Whitfield Winning Warriors.
Yeah, and so very interesting choice right there. with that. And I see that you have amended your pick to Stratford. I see you've amended it. And so
no, I haven't changed anything.
And so, well, I don't know what it is then because
it's a glitch on your part.
There's a glitch in the system. There are two unanimous picks. The Jamestown boys are unanimously picked 26-2, and I think that's because our listeners are smart. And
they've been listening to you for a while.
They've been listening to me go on about Jamestown for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other unanimous pick is Sacred Heart, the 2A boys. They've been picked by everybody. And so I talked to Dr. Mark Ficken today, who's the superintendent at Boonville Schools. We had our bus inspection today at Boonville, so I was in Boonville, and I got invited to speak to the Missouri Retired Teachers Association there, so I was glad to go talk. And I was in Dr. Ficken's office on the way in there. He referees games in our area, superintendent at Boonville. He refereed the Jamestown and St. Elizabeth district final game. St. Elizabeth beat Jamestown last year to knock them out of that district.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of freshmen, and head coach Nick Voss, his little brother, was probably their best player last year. Nick Voss, through one reason or another, depending on which scuttlebutt rumor you listen to, he left to be the coach at Iberia. His brother went with him, so they lost a really good ball player. Jamestown beat them by 4 or 5 points, and Dr. Ficken told me that it was a nail-biter. But he said Trenton Barber came down the lane and had a grown man slam dunk in the middle of the paint. And so that Jamestown train is rolling. We'll see how they do as they continue to go forward. But like I said, this is just kind of a mini podcast where we want to come and talk about the bracket challenge. If you go to the main
and
page,
promote it out there a little bit.
That's right, because what I'll do is I will take down the link as far as to be able to submit picks. I'll take that down tomorrow around the time the games. A lot of the games starting tomorrow on Tuesday night. And then some of the other games will be played on Wednesday night. So we'll close the bracket out tomorrow, and we'll see how everybody's picks come in for the rest of the week. But if you go to the main page on justwintoday.com, then you'll click on, there's a button right there at the top of the page. It says click here to fill out your bracket. That will take you to the bracket challenge. And what that is, it'll show you a drop-down menu of every section of the state. You can pick a team to go, and you can pick your eventual state champion. You have to pick every game, and you have to write your name and your phone number in there to be eligible. If you leave any of that blank, it will not submit your picks. It'll bring up an error. It'll bring up a red box. It won't submit your picks. You have to pick every game to be eligible for the drawing and for the grand prize. And then also, just FYI for the people out there listening that haven't checked it out yet, underneath the bracket challenge there and where you make all your picks, we've got every bracket in the state tournament. Class 1 girls, Class 1 boys, all the way down to Class 3. So, you can go in there and look and see, when these games are, what time they are. And if your team is at home right now not playing anymore, you can pick a game to go out and watch this week. And so I know just from talking to people, everybody's trying to get out and watch different games this week. And then also, we didn't get time to talk about this last night, but this is the kickoff of Class 4 and 5's district tournament this week. And so that's going to be a whole other topic as we start to move forward here, is how is that Class 4 and Class 5 going to shake out?
Right.
And so,
yeah, I think you got some good teams, especially in that Class 4 just down here in that District 1. So that's going to be an interesting couple of district tournaments there.
Absolutely. And so there are a couple new articles up on the site, and tomorrow morning we've got an article that is going to come out that I want to reference real quick. This comes from one of our other writers on the website. We've got about 4 or 5 different people that do some writing for the website. This one comes from our writer, the Bleacher Mom, and it is hilarious. It's probably the funniest article we've ever had on the website, and it's entitled "Just Crazy Things You Hear in the Bleachers."
Oh, Lord.
And so it's really funny all the way through, and then at the end, I mean, I literally laughed so hard at what this one parent yelled at the referee that, it was just hilarious. So I would just tell everybody, hey, check that one out, seriously.
I hope Bleacher Bomb's never been around our dad in a basketball game.
Yeah, because I don't know if she can handle Bleacher Dad.
Yeah.
You'd
really get to hear some things then.
Yeah, our dad, one night, we were playing at Advance, and our dad was not hard on referees. He's not one of those guys yelling at referees and constantly embarrassing us at the game or anything. I think you might have been playing for me when this happened. You might have been a freshman. We were over playing in Advance, and we're kind of rolling along, playing okay, and I called a timeout for something, and I was in the huddle really getting after you guys about something. And I
Surely not.
was upset, and I was getting after you guys in the huddle, and the next day at school, people asked me, they said, what did your dad do to get thrown out of the game last night? And I said, my dad didn't get thrown out of the game. And this is my ADD that kicked in. I never saw Dad get thrown out of the game. I never saw it. I never heard what happened. I didn't hear any kind of a commotion, nothing like that. It's just during that timeout he did something or said something, and the referees kicked him out of the game. So I called Dad, and I said, hey, Dad, what did you get thrown out of the game last night? Somebody said you got thrown out. And he said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he had got thrown out, and I never even saw it. My own dad get thrown out of the game. And so we could entitle that one Crazy Things That Happen at Advance,
Right. Well, and I can tell you that I don't know if that was the first time that happened to him, but I know it wasn't the last.
No. And so yeah, he had a great set of eyes from the top row of the bleachers, as far as making calls for those officials. And so, but yeah, this is an exciting time of the year. And like, you and I were talking today, and I said, man, maybe nobody else cares or thinks it's a neat story, but it was just neat today to get a phone call from a friend of mine who I hadn't talked to in such a long time. And we picked up and started talking like we just talked yesterday, talking high school basketball, same thing we always talk about. And we both love basketball so much. And so we were talking about this, and it's just neat how people are following the website and people are getting into the website, and especially this bracket challenge. This has been a really neat thing to see. Right now we've got, just to give people, some numbers, like my man Ray Lewis says, if you want numbers.
If you want numbers.
If you want numbers. We've got right now, as part of the JWT Nation, we have 1,358 people on our mailing list. Those are the people that when we send updates out, they get the mailing list. And then we have 243 dedicated site members that follow this stuff like on a daily basis. And so these are people that got access to all different parts of the site just from signing up. And so a lot of people are involved. A lot of people listen to this website. A lot of people, come to the podcast and different things like that. And it's fun talking about basketball, and especially this time of year with so much going on. And if we could real quick, I'd like to dive into one topic that we brought up last night. And we do have a time limit on this show, so we kind of ran out of time talking about it. But you had mentioned about postseason practice.
Yeah.
And just kind of digging into that, as some people have a game tomorrow. So their practice is over now, and this. I used to always tell the guys, when we go play this game Tuesday night, our goal is to have practice on Wednesday. Like if we're always fighting for our tomorrow, every night, and there's no tomorrow that's guaranteed to us. So, when we would break that huddle, I'd tell them, hey, I hope to see you guys at practice tomorrow, because that means we won the game.
Right.
And so, kind of get into that a little bit about talking about how you would go through a practice this time of year.
Man, to talk about that first, you got to know that for the most part, my practices throughout the year are going to have a lot to do with just skill development, developing players, tons of ball handling and shooting and running, and lots of scrimmaging, to where we talked about this yesterday too, where now it would be more like, focusing on that team we're about to play. Right. And making sure we know them, we know what they're doing, and maybe scrimmage in that aspect where, you've got enough kids, you got your little scout team that can run what they do or mimic it as close as possible. Probably cut out some of your skill drills, but still shoot like you talked about. I think staying fresh and shooting is really important. And that also, I think kids just like to shoot. So that's going to keep practice fun, and it's not just going to be so, drilled into focusing on this one team. But, I think it's really important to be sure you know who you're going to play. Because, like right now, and just down here in this part of the state, say Briscoe beat Scott Central the other day, they'd be going to play Advance. I don't think those two teams played each other all year.
Exactly.
Or maybe something crazy happened, and like we saw Delta C7 get real hot in the first round of districts. Say they stayed hot, and now they're going to go play Advance. They haven't seen each other play, and it's really going to happen in that next round game where you probably haven't seen this team play. You haven't played against them, so I think it's just really important to be sure you're aware of who you're playing. I think you said, watch a little tape with your guys and let them see, just so they can see who these guys are and they can kind of see what you're saying and talking about.
I think it's real important this time of year. You got to get in this survive and advance mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you this, when we won the state championship the first time, the first thought that went through my head as soon as it was over is, what do you mean there's nobody else? That was like when people ask, what did it feel like to win a state championship? I said it honestly feels like you're standing on, like in the ring in a Royal Rumble, and you've thrown the last guy over the ropes. One. Like there's nobody left to beat. We killed them all, basically, And so I think that's such a mindset you've got to get into as a coach, to where as soon as this one's over, you have to get on to the next. As a coach, you can have no time to celebrate or a win.
Yep.
Let your kids do it. Give your kids that time on the bus and the next morning, whatever. But as a coach, you have to do your homework between that game and the next practice. In other words, you can't be doing your homework with your kids in the room. Like you can't come in and say, hey guys, let's sit down and watch this tape together. You've had to already
You got to already know.
You got to have all your stuff together and say, hey, here's what we're looking at. This is what we want to do. And then,
you've got to have the outline or the PowerPoint or whatever, to where y'all go to look at it together. You've done seen it 2 or 3 times.
And I'll give you a Ronnie Cookson story that I remember when I was in the 10th grade. We won our district. That year we beat, I'm trying to think, we beat Richland in the district finals. They had Jerome Cole, was my age, a sophomore, or Sean Cole, I'm sorry. Sean was a great player. Richland had a really, really good team. And we beat them in the district finals. And then we go on and we back then there was a sectional game, or I'm sorry, a regional game. Played in Sykeston. We won that game. Then we went and played the sectional over at Poplar Bluff, and we won that game. I'm going to be honest with you, I can't remember who we beat over there. But our quarterfinal game, we were going to play against Ludi, which is in Theodosia, Missouri, which is almost on the Arkansas line. And like you just said, we never seen them play. So we're going to play Ludi, and their best player was a 6'2" guard named Jack Coons, Konns. And Jack Coons, Coach Cookson had done his homework, like I'm saying, we won the game on Wednesday night in the sectionals. Back then you won your district on a Thursday night. You played the regional game on a Monday, the sectional game on a Wednesday, and then the quarterfinal game on a Saturday. There was 3 games in that next week. So you had 3 games in districts, 3 games the next week. It was boom, 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 boom. There was no time in between.
Right.
So Coach Cookson had this tape, and I'll never forget this. He had the VCR on one of them old push carts that you used to push the TV on,
Yeah, from the library.
Like that you brought it down from the library, and like maybe Mike Marsh was going to show you a government video in his class, And so Coach Cookson brought this VCR and this TV, and he put it in the corner of the gym, in the old gym there, by the end bleachers, down there on the end.
Yeah, the end
For those of you that don't speak Coach Cookson, end bleachers means the bleachers at the end of the gym.
Yeah.
So he put the VCR down there, and he put this tape in. And he said, I want you guys to watch this. And he put this tape in. Now think about this. He's trying to get us ready. And Coach Cookson very much coached his scouting report in a way that he wanted you, now I don't want to say to fear the other team, But if it's, let's say that they had a couple good players, Coach Cookson would tell you they could dunk with two hands backwards, something like that.
Oh gosh, everybody could dunk 360.
You know,
everybody you're going to play.
He would build everybody up because he wanted you to not
and
ever go into a game.
And the crazy thing is, you kind of believed
you
it.
did believe him, you know, and it's like Coach Cookson. I've grown up playing against this kid my whole life. When did he start dunking? Like,
never seen him touch the net.
Yeah,
now he's dunking backwards.
And so anyway, he put this tape in of Jack Coons, and he pushed play. And Jack went up to block a kid's shot from behind, and he covered up the top of his head to keep from hitting it on the rim.
Oh, my God.
This kid could jump out of the gym, and he wanted us to see that. So when he was talking about the things that they could do, he wanted everybody to see that he wasn't making this up. This kid could fly. So we went over there, and Jack Coons won the tip, opening tip of the game. They outlet. And it's like they had a little special play they run off of the tip. And he did
you're good when you got that.
Oh, my gosh. He did one of the craziest dunks. It's like he dunked it with his right hand, with his right shoulder forward. Like, it was like a cuff dunk where he pushed it in the rim. He was so high. And it was an and one. First play of the game. He dunked on Doug Turner so hard that we were all like, oh, my God, this guy can just jump out of the gym. And he ended up scoring in the first half. I think he had 29 in the first half on us. I mean, he was a phenomenal player. And we ended up beating him.
Y'all tried to play any defense that game?
Well, he was 7 out of 9 from the three-point line in the first half, if I remember.
Somebody should have guarded him.
He was on fire. And he had 27 in the first half and 39 in the game, or 29 in the first half and 37. I don't remember exactly, but it was something like that. And basically, he run out of gas is what we did. We made the point guard give the ball up. We turned him over, and that's how we won the game. But basically, the point of the story, Coach Cookson did his homework between, so that when he sat us down to watch that tape on that old pushcart VCR, he had that tape right where he wanted us to see it, and he's like, this is what I need you to see. Now let's get out here and do
practice.
And
while that's in your mind.
And the other thing that Coach Cookson would do back then, and it's not the case anymore at Scott County Central, people, not to get on a whole side topic, people have asked me multiple times since they've seen the bracket, Scott County's record is down. They say, what's wrong with Scott Central? I said, well, I don't know. I'm not down there anymore, but I know they got rid of 7th hour PE. Back in the day, you had 7th hour athletics at Scott Central where the boys and girls both had PE. I can even remember another time when we only had one gym, and the girls had 1st hour PE and the boys had 7th hour PE. And so, but the basketball team had their own athletics hour PE, which still happens in some schools around the state. Like I know Zenith Hornersville still has that, where you have an athletics hour PE. So we would come in, and you know this is true. We would start practice basically at 2:00 during basketball season, and then in our preseason, that's when we ran our mile and did all our conditioning and stuff. But starting in October 31st or whatever day practice started, we started at 2:00, and then the varsity would practice until about 4:30. Everybody practiced the first hour during PE. And then when the bell would ring, the varsity would practice for about an hour and a half, and then the JV would just sit and wait. And then the JV would practice after that till 6:30, whatever time it took to go home. I mean, so practice literally went from like 2 to 6:15 or something like that every day. So what Coach Cookson would do during the playoffs is the JV would go home. Well, automatically it felt like practice was I don't know, I can't explain it, just a lot fresher, a lot more light because there's less bodies in the gym. And then number 2, we would go until 7th hour, and then he'd keep us till about 3:30 because the JV was completely out of the way now. And so we would just kind of go through. So, just getting out of the gym sooner, I mean, in hindsight, looking back at it, we were probably doing about half an hour or an hour's less of work. But because we were able to get more reps in during that time, we were getting kind of close to the same amount of work done probably. But he did a great job of keeping us fresh during that run. And I kind of hit on this last night. You have to be careful because from the first round of districts, and if you back up before the district tournament, and let's say that you want to start backing off your running the week before districts. You've got that week, you've got the week of the district tournament, you've got the week of the playoffs, and then you've got the Final Four week. That's 4 weeks. So if you back off too far, you could be in the middle of a great run and look up and you're in the quarterfinals, and all of a sudden you're not in as good a shape as you were in the back at the beginning of February. And so I would caution people, like, you got to find a balance. and you for sure want your legs this time of year. That's one thing I think we can all agree on.
Right. I agree.
But I think that this time of year it's really important how you structure your practice and how you do your homework as a coach between this game and the next one. And so kind of switching gears here, you played in some playoff games. I played in some playoff games. What advice would you give to players as they're getting ready? Tomorrow night, some of these guys, this is the biggest game they've ever played in their life.
Right. I think you don't want to put any added pressure on it just because of, the situation. I mean, just go play your game is what I say. Go play like you always play. That's the reason you're there, because of how you've been playing, and just go play that way. Do what you've always done. Try to play a little harder. Don't leave anything, to where you could turn away and say, man, I could have, should have, would have done this. Like, go leave it all out on the floor because you won't get it back, and just play like you've always played. Like they say, dance with the one that brought you. Don't go out there and try something new just because it's a sectional game and, you got a chance to go win state or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Go do what you've always done. Trust what you've built throughout the year. Trust the things you've done, your habits, and go put them in play. See what happens.
And I think that, I wrote an article. It's up on a website right now called Survive and Advance, How to Handle Pressure During the Playoffs.
Yeah.
And this is, for coaches and players. But, I think the biggest thing is the advice that I would give to players is embrace this moment. And you can read the rest of it. I gave about 4 or 5 different pieces of advice. But the biggest one is embrace the moment, because if you're a senior, there are no do-overs. Obviously, this is the end of the road if you get beat. But even if you're an underclassman, you're never going to be here again in this moment with this team playing in this game with the exact same teammates. You might come back, if you're a sophomore, you might get back here your senior year, but it's not going to be with the same guys. It's not going to be playing against the same team. So, say, for example, tomorrow night you're, Whitfield playing whoever, you got a chance to take down Whitfield tonight. You may not have that same chance in 2 years. So embrace the moment that you're in right now and really enjoy the challenge that's in front of you. You got to want it to be hard a little bit. You've heard me say this in the huddle before. If you're a competitor, you want their best shot.
Yeah.
You want their best shot. Not that you want every call to go against you, but you got to have the mindset, if you're not getting the calls, good. You know what?
We're still going to win.
They're getting all the calls, good. That's fine.
They need
We're
them.
going to beat them anyway because they need them. We don't need them. If they're making every shot they shoot, you can't be in a huddle like, oh my gosh, they never miss. You got to be in a huddle like, good, because after we beat them,
they better make them all.
They can't say one thing. They can't make one excuse when this game's over. All they can say is, you know what? We played as good as we can play. We got every call, and it still wasn't enough to beat them. That's how good those guys are. That's what, in your mind, you got to want that tough challenge so that when you get there, if you just blow their doors off, well, that's great. But if you get there and you're in that tough challenge, you're ready for it. You're ready for that moment where you knew it was going to be hard before you even started, And so, that's my advice to players. Just enjoy it. And one team's going to win and one team's going to lose. But by God, I'm not going to get beat by being scared. And I'm not going to get beat by backing up. And I'm not going to look back and say coulda, woulda, shoulda. I'm going to come out here and I'm going to come straight at you and I'm going to attack. And if your stuff is better than my stuff tonight, then we're just going home, and that's fine. But I'm not going to look back later and say, man, I wish I would have done this or that or, whatever. Attack and enjoy that moment that you're in, players, because, it's a memory you're going to remember for the rest of your life. I can remember these big games that we won, and more than the final score and more than the end of the game when you're so excited you win. Definitely winning is the ultimate feeling. But I can remember playing in the quarterfinals the first time we won it and being down at halftime and making this run. And I can remember Luke Phillips diving to tip a pass away, the ball ricocheting to C.J. Hadley, C.J. outletting the ball to Kenyon Wright, and then Kenyon flipping it back to C.J. for a layup, and a crowd going nuts. The other team calls a timeout because we're on a run and they just can't stop us.
Yeah.
And we're coming in a huddle like, let's go. Just that moment of that electricity of the crowd, man, you only get to do this one time in your life. Like I was saying, even if you come back here again, you're not going to be in this moment again. Soak it up, enjoy it. You're playing with your friends, you're playing for your coach, you're playing for your town, for your community. You know, like we always say, just win today. It's all about today. It's all about this moment, because you can't do it again. There's no do-over. Man, I'm fired up. Let's go play ball.
Let's go.
Let's go play
right
ball.
now.
So we would just welcome everybody into the mini podcast and enjoy doing this and enjoy talking about basketball. So
spread it, like we always say, share it to everybody.
That's right.
Tell all your coaching buddies, your friends, they got a day left to fill out their bracket.
That's right. If you like it, share it. Get some more entries into that bracket. Like I said, we're going to give away some free shirts and whatnot to the winners. And so thanks, everybody, for supporting the site and supporting what we do. If you're not a part of it yet, join the revolution. There's still room on the bandwagon for you if you want to get in late.
That's right.
So
it's a big wagon.
It's a big wagon. So, all right, Tobe, we'll do this again.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, checking in. Check out the website. Fill out your bracket, JWT.